The double doors of Providence Municipal Court swing open with more force than necessary, and in walks the kind of young man who has never been told no in his entire life. Designer sneakers that cost more than most people's monthly rent, a Rolex that catches the fluorescent light, hair styled with the precision of someone who has a personal groomer on retainer. Brandon Castellano, 22 years old, heir to the Castellano Technologies fortune, strides toward the defendant's podium like he owns the building. And given his father's net worth of $4.2 billion, he probably assumes he could buy it if he wanted to. Behind him, moving with considerably more gravitas, is Richard Hartley III, one of the most expensive defense attorneys on the Eastern Seaboard. His briefcase alone costs more than some cars. He's the kind of lawyer CEOs keep on speed dial for exactly these situations, when their children do something monumentally stupid and need it to disappear. Judge Frank Caprio watches them approach, his expression unreadable. He's seen wealth in this courtroom before. He's seen arrogance. He's seen the particular brand of entitlement that comes from being born into money so vast it warps your understanding of consequences. But there's something in this case file that has the veteran judge sitting a little straighter than usual. Something that made him request a particular piece of evidence be queued up on the courtroom's display screen. Case number 78432, the clerk announces. The City of Providence versus Brandon Michael Castellano. Charges include assault, battery, harassment, and disturbing the peace. Brandon approaches the podium with a smirk that suggests he finds this entire proceeding amusing. His lawyer positions himself strategically, ready to do the talking. Your Honor, Attorney Hartley begins smoothly, my client is prepared to resolve this matter quickly and fairly. We're prepared to offer a generous settlement to the alleged victim and... Counselor, Judge Caprio interrupts, his voice mild but firm, I appreciate your efficiency, but I haven't even read the charges yet. Let's slow down a bit, shall we? Hartley nods, but there's a flicker of something in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps. In his world, money usually accelerates these proceedings, not slows them down. Judge Caprio turns his attention to Brandon. Young man, do you understand why you're here today? Brandon shrugs with exaggerated casualness. Some misunderstanding with a homeless guy in a wheelchair. It wasn't a big deal. We've already offered to pay for a new wheelchair or whatever. The courtroom grows perceptibly quieter. Several people in the gallery exchange glances. Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly, a gesture anyone familiar with his courtroom knows signals that things are about to get serious. A homeless guy in a wheelchair, he repeats softly. Is that how you see the victim in this case? Brandon's lawyer places a subtle hand on his arm, but the young man doesn't pick up on the warning. I mean, yeah, he was blocking the sidewalk. I just moved him out of the way. People are making this way bigger than it needs to be. Moved him out of the way, Caprio echoes. He picks up a document from his desk. I have here a statement from a witness who describes what happened somewhat differently. They say you approached the victim while recording on your phone, made several disparaging comments, and then, and I'm quoting directly, kicked the wheelchair hard enough to tip it over, spilling the occupant onto the concrete. For the first time, a crack appears in Brandon's confident facade. That's not, I mean, it wasn't like that. It was just a joke. My followers thought it was funny. Your followers, Judge Caprio says, and there's something in his tone that makes the entire courtroom lean forward. Yes, let's talk about your followers. Because you didn't just do this, Mr. Castellano. You broadcast it, live, to over 800,000 people on Instagram. He turns to the bailiff. Kill the lights, please. I think it's time we all saw exactly what Mr. Castellano considers funny. The color drains from Brandon Castellano's face as the courtroom lights dim and a massive screen behind the judge flickers to life. Attorney Hartley is on his feet immediately. Your Honor, I must object. This is highly irregular. The defense was not informed that video evidence would be presented in this manner. My client has rights. Your client, Judge Caprio says calmly, broadcast this video publicly to nearly 1 million people. He made it evidence the moment he pressed that Go Live button. He has no expectation of privacy for content he deliberately shared with the world. Overruled. Play the video. The screen comes alive. The video quality is high. Brandon clearly has an expensive phone and the audio is crystal clear. The timestamp in the corner shows it was recorded 3 weeks ago, at 2:47 p.m. on a sunny Saturday afternoon. The footage shows a bustling sidewalk outside a popular Providence coffee shop. The camera is pointed at Brandon's face first, that perfect Instagram angle, and he's grinning at his audience. Yo, what's up everyone? Your boy Brandon here, just grabbed my morning coffee, well, afternoon coffee, you know how I do, and check this out. The camera swings around to show a man in a wheelchair positioned near the coffee shop entrance. He's wearing a faded Army veteran cap and a jacket with military patches. His wheelchair is older, clearly well used. He's holding a small cardboard sign that reads, "Veteran. Anything helps. God bless." The courtroom is absolutely silent as Brandon's recorded voice continues. Look at this guy, just sitting here blocking the whole sidewalk. Some people have places to be, am I right? Let's see if we can help him move along. In the video, Brandon approaches the man in the wheelchair. The veteran looks up with a confused expression, clearly not understanding what's happening. He's older, mid-50s, perhaps with weathered features and kind eyes that are starting to show alarm. "Excuse me, sir," the veteran says politely, "is there something I can help you with?" Brandon laughs, not a genuine laugh, but the performative kind designed for an audience. "Yeah, you can help me by getting out of my way. You're blocking the entrance, bro." "I'm sorry, I didn't realize." The veteran starts to wheel himself aside, but Brandon is already moving. What happens next makes several people in the gallery gasp. Brandon's foot connects with the side of the wheelchair, not a nudge, but a full, forceful kick. The chair tips violently, and the veteran spills onto the concrete. His sign scatters. Loose change from a small cup rolls across the sidewalk. And through it all, Brandon's laughter fills the audio. His phone captures his own face, gleeful and triumphant, then pans back to the veteran struggling on the ground. "Oh, did you guys see that? That's what happens when you block the Castellano." Comment below if you think that was savage. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The video continues for another 30 seconds, showing passers-by rushing to help the fallen veteran while Brandon walks away, still narrating to his followers about how some people just need to learn their place. The screen goes dark, the courtroom lights come back up. Judge Caprio says nothing for a long moment. The silence is suffocating. Brandon's earlier smirk has completely vanished, replaced by the pale, sweaty expression of someone who has just realized that money might not fix this. "Mr. Castellano," Judge Caprio finally says, his voice barely above a whisper, "that video has been viewed 14 million times since the incident. 14 million people watched you assault a disabled veteran and laugh about it. Did you think about that when you pressed record?" Brandon's mouth opens and closes. For perhaps the first time in his privileged life, he has no words. Attorney Hartley attempts to step in. "Your Honor, my client was young and foolish. He deeply regrets." "I didn't ask you, counselor. I asked him." Caprio's gaze doesn't waver from Brandon. "I want to hear from Mr. Castellano himself. Do you understand what you did?" Brandon swallows hard. I guess I didn't think about it. I was just trying to make content. My followers like edgy stuff. I didn't mean for anyone to actually get hurt." "You didn't mean for anyone to get hurt," Caprio repeats. "The man you assaulted required medical attention for cuts on his hands and arms from the fall. He's 53 years old, Mr. Castellano. He served 3 tours in Afghanistan. And the reason he's in that wheelchair?" The judge pauses. "Would you like to know?" Brandon doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The answer is already walking through the courtroom doors. The wheelchair that enters the courtroom is different from the one in the video. This one is newer, sleeker, clearly a recent acquisition. But the man sitting in it is unmistakably the same. Sergeant Marcus Thompson, United States Army, retired. He wheels himself down the center aisle with a quiet dignity that fills the room. His veteran's cap is the same one from the video, worn with pride. But now, in the context of this courtroom, the patches on his jacket are visible in detail: the 101 Saint Airborne Division Screaming Eagle, the Bronze Star Ribbon, the Purple Heart. And beneath the blanket covering his lap, the reason for the wheelchair becomes clear. Both of his legs end above the knee. The gallery is utterly silent as Marcus positions himself near the front of the courtroom. He doesn't look at Brandon with hatred. He doesn't look at him with anger. He looks at him with something far more devastating: sadness. Judge Caprio's voice is gentle now, a stark contrast to the steel he showed moments ago. "Sergeant Thompson, thank you for coming today. I know this isn't easy for you." "No, sir, it isn't," Marcus replies. His voice is deep and steady, the voice of a man who has faced far worse than a courtroom. "But it's important, not for me, for others. Can you tell the court a little about yourself? About your service?" Marcus nods. "I enlisted in 2003, right after I graduated high school. I was 18 years old and I wanted to serve my country after 9/11. Did 3 tours in Afghanistan 2004, 2007, and 2010. He pauses, his hand moving unconsciously to his leg or where his leg used to be. On my third tour, my convoy hit an IED outside Kandahar. I was the gunner. The blast. He stops, takes a breath. There were 3 other men in the vehicle with me. Specialist Rodriguez, Private First Class Williams, and our driver, Corporal Chen. The IED was under my side. I took the worst of it. But you saved them, Judge Caprio says quietly. Inspector Quinn found your citation. Despite your injuries that would cost you both legs, you pulled all 3 men from the burning vehicle before you lost consciousness. You received the Bronze Star for valor. Marcus shrugs, uncomfortable with the praise. They were my brothers. You don't leave brothers behind. And after your service? After your recovery? The veteran's jaw tightens. Recovery took 2 years. Learning to live without legs. That's a journey. I had a wife and a daughter. Thought we'd be okay. But the medical bills, the PTSD, the adjustments, it was too much. My wife left in 2015. Took our daughter to California. When did you become homeless? About 3 years ago. Lost my job when the factory closed. Couldn't keep up with rent. The VA had a waiting list for housing assistance 6 months, they said. Then a year. I've been on the streets ever since. He says this without self-pity, just stating facts. I don't beg. I sit with my sign near coffee shops because sometimes people buy me food or coffee. That's all I ask for. Just a little kindness. Judge Caprio turns to Brandon, whose face has gone from pale to ashen. Mr. Castellano, you kicked this man's wheelchair over for content. For likes and comments. Did you ever stop to wonder who he was? What he had sacrificed? Brandon's voice is barely a whisper. No, sir. Did you know that when your video went viral, Sergeant Thompson received death threats? That people tracked down his location and harassed him? That he had to move to a different part of the city because your followers thought it would be funny to find him and recreate what you did? I didn't know that. Of course you didn't, because you never thought about him as a human being at all, did you? He was just content, just a prop for your entertainment. From the back of the courtroom, a door opens. A young woman enters, early 20s, with Marcus's eyes. She's been crying, her makeup smudged, but she walks with purpose toward the front of the courtroom. That's my daughter, Marcus says, his stoic composure cracking for the first time. Angela. She flew in from California when she saw the video. Angela Thompson doesn't acknowledge anyone else in the room. She walks directly to her father's wheelchair, kneels beside him, and wraps her arms around him. They hold each other, father and daughter, reunited by a viral video of cruelty. I didn't know, Daddy, she whispers, loud enough for the silent courtroom to hear. I didn't know you were on the streets. Mom never told me. I would have come. I would have helped. Judge Caprio allows the moment to breathe. The courtroom watches as Angela and Marcus hold each other, decades of separation and miscommunication dissolving in that embrace. Even Attorney Hartley has stopped trying to interject. After a long moment, Angela straightens up but keeps one hand on her father's shoulder. She turns to face the bench and Brandon Castellano. Your Honor, may I speak? Please. Angela's voice trembles with controlled fury. I'm 24 years old. The last time I saw my father, I was 11. My mother told me he didn't want us anymore. That the war had changed him. That he was dangerous. She shakes her head. None of that was true. He was just struggling. He was just hurt. And I believed her because I was a child and I didn't know better. She points at Brandon without looking at him. And then this person, puts my father on the internet for 14 million people to laugh at. I'm scrolling through Instagram and suddenly I see my dad, the man I thought abandoned me, being kicked to the ground. Lying on the concrete with his wheelchair tipped over. And the comments, her voice breaks. The comments were the worst part. People calling him names, saying he deserved it, saying homeless people aren't even human. She finally turns to face Brandon directly. Do you know what that did to me? To see that? To know that while I was living my comfortable life in California, my father, a war hero, was on the streets? And that you thought his suffering was entertainment? Brandon looks like he wants the floor to swallow him. I'm sorry, he manages. I didn't think. No, Angela cuts him off. You don't get to apologize and make this go away. You don't get to write a check and pretend it never happened. My father gave his legs for this country. What have you ever given for anything? The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Judge Caprio lets it continue for a moment before raising his hand for order. Ms. Thompson, thank you. Your words are important. He turns to Marcus. Sergeant Thompson, you've heard your daughter. You've seen the defendant. Is there anything you'd like to say to this court before I render my judgment? Marcus Thompson is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his words carry the weight of a man who has genuinely contemplated this question. Your Honor, I've had a lot of time to think about this. Lying in doorways at night, you've got nothing but time to think. And I'll be honest, when it first happened, I was angry. Real angry, not because of the fall or the bruises. Those heal, but because of the way he looked at me. Like I was nothing, like I didn't deserve to take up space on the sidewalk. He pauses, his eyes distant. In Afghanistan, we were taught that every person has value. The locals, the kids, even the enemy combatants, they were all human beings deserving of basic dignity. And here, in my own country, this young man looked at me like I was garbage. But here's the thing, Marcus turns slightly to look at Brandon, who can barely meet his eyes. I don't want him destroyed. I don't want his life ruined. That doesn't fix anything. That just creates more broken people. He wheels himself slightly closer to the defendant's podium. What I want, what I really want, is for him to understand. I want him to know what it's like to struggle, to feel invisible, to have people look past you like you're not even there. Not as punishment but as education. Judge Caprio leans forward with interest. What are you suggesting, Sergeant? There's a veterans shelter on the south side of Providence. I stayed there for a few months before they ran out of beds. They're always short on volunteers, people to help with meals, with cleaning, with just sitting and talking to vets who've got nobody else. Most of those men and women have stories just like mine. Some worse. Marcus looks at Brandon again. I want him to go there. Not for a photo op. Not for content, but to actually work, to look men like me in the eye and see us as human beings. Maybe then he'll understand what he did. And maybe then, the apology he gives will actually mean something. The courtroom is absolutely still. Attorney Hartley looks uncertain. This isn't going the way he expected. Brandon looks stunned, like this possibility had never occurred to him. And Judge Frank Caprio is smiling a small, approving smile. Sergeant Thompson, he says, in all my years on this bench, I have rarely seen such grace from a victim. You have every right to demand punishment. Instead, you're offering a path to redemption. That speaks to the kind of man you are. He turns to Brandon. Mr. Castellano, I hope you're paying attention. Because what happens next is going to depend very much on whether you understand the gift you're being offered. Judge Frank Caprio stands. The movement is slow and deliberate, emphasizing the gravity of what comes next. The entire courtroom rises with him out of instinct and respect. Please, sit. He waits until everyone is settled before continuing. I've been on this bench for over 40 years. I've seen every kind of case you can imagine: petty crimes, genuine mistakes, tragic circumstances, and yes, occasionally, deliberate cruelty. What I saw in that video falls into the last category. He looks at Brandon, his gaze unwaveringly direct. Mr. Castellano, you committed assault on a disabled veteran for entertainment. You broadcast his humiliation to the world. You turned a human being's suffering into content for your personal brand. That is not a mistake. That is not boys being boys. That is a fundamental failure of empathy and moral character. Brandon's head drops. Attorney Hartley opens his mouth, but Caprio silences him with a look. Your lawyer wants me to accept a settlement. Write a check, make it all go away. That's how things have always worked for you, isn't it? Problem appears, daddy's money makes it disappear. But not today. Today, there will be actual consequences. He picks up a document from his desk. Here is my ruling. On the charge of assault, I find you guilty. On the charge of harassment, guilty. On the charge of disturbing the peace, guilty. For sentencing, I am taking into consideration the recommendation of the victim, Sergeant Marcus Thompson. I am ordering the following. First, you will complete 500 hours of community service at the Providence Veterans Shelter. Not 50, not 100, 500 hours. That's approximately 3 months of full-time work. During that time, you will help serve meals, clean facilities, and most importantly, you will listen. You will sit with veterans and hear their stories. You will learn that every person you dismissed as homeless is a human being with a history, with dreams, with family, with worth. Brandon's face has gone white, but Caprio is not finished. Second, you will delete every social media account you own. All of them. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everything. For 1 full year, you will live without an audience. You will learn that your value as a human being is not measured in likes and followers. Third, you will personally fund the creation of a wheelchair-accessible tiny home village for homeless veterans in Providence. Not your father's money, yours. Whatever trust fund, whatever investments, whatever assets are in your name. I want documentation that you have personally committed at least $2 million to this project. Attorney Hartley finally speaks. Your Honor, this is extraordinarily punitive. My client has rights. Your client, Caprio cuts him off, has the right to face the consequences of his actions like every other citizen of this country. The alternative is jail time, counselor. Would he prefer that? Hartley falls silent. Fourth and finally, at the end of your 500 hours, you will return to this courtroom. You will stand before me, and you will tell me what you learned. Not a prepared statement from your lawyer. Not a PR-crafted apology. You will look me in the eye and tell me, in your own words, whether you understand now what you did and why it was wrong. Judge Caprio turns to Marcus Thompson. Sergeant, is this acceptable to you? Marcus nods slowly. More than acceptable, Your Honor. It's more than I asked for. Good, because there's one more thing I want to address. Caprio's voice softens. Sergeant Thompson, this court recognizes that our system failed you. You served your country with honor and courage. You sacrificed your legs saving your brothers. And we let you fall through the cracks. That ends today. He holds up another document. I have here a commitment from the Rhode Island Veterans Affairs Office to expedite your housing benefits. I've also received word that the owner of the new wheelchair you're sitting in, who wished to remain anonymous, has offered to provide you with a fully accessible apartment, rent-free, for as long as you need it. Marcus's stoic composure finally cracks. Tears stream down his weathered face as Angela grips his hand. Furthermore, Caprio continues, I understand that you and your daughter have been separated for many years. I hope that today marks the beginning of healing that relationship. Family is precious, Sergeant. More precious than anything else in this world. He turns back to Brandon for the final time. Mr. Castellano, I want you to look at this man. Really look at him. He lost his legs for this country. He lost his marriage. He lost years with his daughter. He has slept on concrete and been ignored by the very nation he protected. And when you kicked him to the ground, he had every right to demand your destruction. But he didn't. He asked for your redemption instead. That's the difference between a hero and a coward. A hero knows that true strength is offering mercy when you have every right to demand vengeance. Brandon is crying now, real tears, not performative ones for a camera. I understand, Your Honor. I understand. I hope you do. I truly hope you do. Because the person you become after these 500 hours is the person you'll be for the rest of your life. Don't waste this chance. Judge Caprio picks up his gavel. Court is adjourned. The sound of the gavel echoes through the silent room. But what happens next is unprecedented. The entire gallery rises not to leave, but to applaud. For Marcus Thompson. For justice actually served. For a moment of genuine accountability in a world that so rarely demands it. As the courtroom slowly empties, Marcus wheels over to Brandon, who flinches instinctively. But the veteran extends his hand. I'll see you at the shelter, son. We'll start from there. Brandon takes the hand of the man he assaulted and shakes it. It's a small gesture, but it's a beginning.